Who covered my show for me?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, Studio A is working correctly. That's probably why, right?
No, Monster.
Yeah, good old Monster. I love Monster.
Yeah, Monster's been helping the Studio A people. We've been assigned to Monster.
Well, I've had Mitchell, but the thing is he has stuff to do. So good old Matt is helping.
Oh, I see a Matt. Hey, Matt. I love Am too. I call him Am. I call Am. I love Am. I love all of our people. I mean, there's just one that I don't like at all, but that's a whole other story. But everybody else I totally love.
Well, we did lose 2 of them yesterday, pass over to the other realm.
No. 2 more
Yes.
hosts died?
Yes.
Who?
Ryan Rectify. And most people would have known him by Rectify. I always called him R3. And the other one was Murrow, if I can remember his name correctly.
Was Rectify sick or just all of a sudden died?
No, it was years of accumulation, almost like Mike's.
Oh, and then so what the other person? What show did they
Now
have?
that was that's a good question. Let me see.
Steve Morrow was the other one.
Yeah, Steve Morrow.
Which show was that?
He hadn't had a show for a couple of months.
Oh, okay. All right. Huh, what a trip,
But
huh?
still, he was still a part of the station. And we got the news that he went on the weekend, so.
Wow.
But Rectify went yesterday, I swear, during the time that Mr. Rowe was having the earthquake. Yep, he said it moved every which way, that earthquake out there. And now, what did you say, Lenny? There was a 6 point something in the Philippines?
Yeah, 6.4, I think they said, in the Philippines about an hour ago. So it's a rocking and a rolling underneath the earth right now.
Well, it was kind of interesting since Bridgette was talking about dimensional occurrences, that how we look at death as being an ending when it's not. It's just a crossover to a different arena, kind of.
Yeah, and since we don't know what the arena is, most people tend to fear it. But fear not, because death is inevitable at the end of life, but somehow that might not be true.
Yeah, I'm not going for that. I'm doing the traditional shaman way, where I keep my body alive indefinitely and cross in between and out timelines.
Okay.
That's my focus of this life.
I think we've got several simultaneous timelines running in different dimensions because they're expressed as different fractals of the same comprehensive overall unit, and that some of what we're experiencing today is not of our world because the other worlds that are simultaneously here have the same influences, checks, and balances.
On the horsetail too, I was gonna, since we're over on this side now, this side of the radio, I have to get my dog a cookie. She's really like on me.
Horsetail cookies for the dog?
Yeah, she gets a little cookie. She's had a bleeding UTI. I'm not sure exactly what's causing it, but and so she's not allowed to have a lot of animal protein right now, and she gets fresh cranberries and blueberries chopped up in her dinner to help with it, and then I put a little bit of apple cider vinegar water in the blueberries. Are not as strong as cranberries, but they act the same way when it comes to urinary tract stuff.
Okay, now what they've done around here for the cats is giving them pumpkin.
Not for UTI. Pumpkin would be for like other types of stuff. I mean, I wouldn't give gin pumpkin in her food for a UTI, especially a bleeding urinary tract infection. But and then also too, usually, I make yarrow products for UTIs and bleeding UTIs and other stuff. Yarrow can stop internal bleeding and external bleeding, and also, is really good at helping the urinary tract. But it's not good for dogs, the yarrow. So,
what about baking soda?
yeah, I wouldn't probably give her that because a lot of it has aluminum in it, and they're smaller. Dogs are smaller, and they can get more brain damage.
Ooh.
Yeah, so you have to be careful with that baking soda because a lot of it has aluminum in it.
Wow.
And a lot of people will drink it, to help with alkalization, and they're damaging their brain. They're creating Alzheimer's
But the
long
thing
term.
is that you can get it without
Yeah,
the
but
aluminum.
but a lot of people don't understand that. And then they buy, the cheaper brand or the mainstream brand, and then
Oh, I
that's
just
what
use
you get.
that to clean the cheaper brand.
But that also has aluminum in it. So if you don't wear gloves or a mask, you're breathing it in, or
Look,
it's absorbing through your skin.
you drive in traffic, honey. How many other toxins are you attributing that you
Right,
are
but the thing
surrounded?
is if you drink things out of aluminum cans, you use aluminum products,
Oh,
you
no,
use
not
aluminum
me.
foil pans, and then you're using an aluminum
Nope.
product. I mean, there's so much of it out there. I'm not disagreeing, but I try to limit my dog's exposure as much as I can because I don't want to deal with a dog that has brain damage. It's
I
just,
know, right?
so it turns out horsetail is I have some that I've already made, so I've just got to go get her some. But I'm going to start now giving her horsetail because I was reading up from a really good, reputable herbal veterinarian that that one of the preferred uses would be horsetail for a dog's and cat's urinary tract infection.
Well, when I was doing it for humans, horsetail will shrink kidney stones and gallstones within minutes.
Yeah. Well, another thing too is they said because there's so much inflammation in the tissues, and usually it's aging dogs and cats that get the urinary tract infections, which means all their parts are sagging. You know what I mean? Their bladder is sagging. And what horsetail too can do is it tightens up. It can tighten up tendons and ligaments and organs, so that, it kind of also helps in that manner because aging organs, get inflamed. And so you can actually tighten all that stuff up. So I think that's also one of the reasons why the vets use it for urinary tract infections along with, stones.
All right,
But
now, do you know the original word or reason why horsetail was also prominent? It was one of the first sandpapers,
yeah, yeah,
and that it was also the brushes because they would trim the all the same size, stick it in a piece of wood, and that would be their brush.
yeah.
Horsetail's amazing.
No, horsetail, Lenny and I finished my show with horsetail, but horsetail
I
is
was
just like,
listening.
it's, I have this this love story with horsetail that's gone on 12 years. And it just is an incredible plant. It blows my mind what this plant is capable of doing, and what it does. And so few people know anything about it. And it's funny if you go online, um, and I try to find old blogs from herbalists that were writing, and I found a few herbalists that have been practicing herbal medicine for a while that have gone back into and were reading books from really old herbalists,
Jethro Kloss, uh-huh.
and they were talking about just really good stuff about all kinds of different herbal medicine. But if you go majority online, they'll, these, especially these WebMD and all these other places, they're like, oh, you want to sort of be aware of horsetail. And you're just like, yeah, because what, you don't want people to take it? Because then you'll have to get them off the inflammatory drugs, and maybe their knee will build itself, and their cartilage and tendons will tighten up and hold their structure in place better, and maybe their osteoporosis will get healed, like all kinds of stuff
Well,
will
it,
get
it
healed.
also provides stronger hair, stronger teeth, and stronger nails.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, it really does. Now, I've basically cut back because I did it for decades.
Well, what are you using? Were you using that dried product in tea or the fresh product in tea or
Oh
tinctures
no,
or
there's no dry. I mean, it's a bulk cut and sifted because growing it's a whole different story.
Yeah, well, I can go down to the river here. We have it's like one of the predominant plants that loves to grow in the desert around water. Um,
Right.
so in the summertime I had tons of it. I made all kinds. I have like, 6 huge jars of tincture, and then also and then I cut a ton of it for bulk for using in tea, dried
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Same here. Well, I would do it in my coffee, which is 90% herbs and 10% coffee.
Aha.
Uh-huh.
Aha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing too I learned this year is, well, I know red raspberry leaves are super good for female hormonal stuff. You have menopause, you get yourself some red raspberry leaf tea, and you pound that stuff in the morning. But also, I uh, got a lot of a friend of mine in herbal medicine this summer. Actually also collected a ton of blackberry leaves and then cut them and dried them, and turns out blackberry leaves can do the same thing. It's just they're not as strong. But if you don't have the red raspberry, and you can literally go anywhere in your environment, pretty much everywhere there's raspberry or blackberries growing. And you
Not
can,
if you have a manicured yard like mine, because I was growing them in the back and they thought they were weeds and cut them all down.
oh,
I mean, I live like that all year round. It's like, jeez. Yeah,
well,
I'm
that's
very
what
not happy.
happens. That's what happened last summer when I was growing a lot of those native plants, and I was out, in the desert on a friend of mine's property. And it's like every time I would do something, I'd come back and he had like totally undid it. And you just are like, at some point, you just want to like, you're
Right.
average human, and you're working against me, and you're working against nature, and you're working against, you know, it's kind of a trip how we've
Yes, it
developed.
is. Yes, it is because there's like just no respect for life.
Yeah. Another thing too is like, it's a really good thing to collect the leaves, just in case people are listening, before the plant starts to flower, because
Right.
then the leaves will have a lot more of those
Well,
hormonal type
unless you're
things that
collecting
are needed.
flowers.
Yeah, and then you could do that as well. Yeah.
Well, and then there's so many wild ones. Like I would always go out when the violets were blooming and the dandelions. And you eat them fresh, right from the
Yeah.
ground, as long as a dog or somebody didn't on it. And basically, there's your fodder. And
Yeah.
people just don't even realize. But I really think that, like Lenny, I showed him there was a plant called Cuban Oregano. Have you ever seen it, Bridget?
No, huh?
It does look like a coleus, but it is in the family of coleus. But it's also used as a spice because you can't dry it. It's one herb that you just can't dry. You got to always use it fresh. And the real color of it is so green. It's beautiful with white variegation. But I had one outside and I had one inside. And Lenny can tell you, it got so devitalized and bleached. And I mean, it was so sad to even see it. So I brought it in hoping I can revive it.
The
That's how
two
bad
plants
Mm.
this.
together are completely different. But I was able to give Mona a huge leaf of my mullein that I had brought along.
Yes, I
You
have
know,
fresh Washington mullein.
friggin-
Awesome. I'm so glad my native friends, this year I was immersed in everything herbal medicine and every possible avenue of it. Um, and I think I'm the only one in my program that actually finished everything, the papers, all the classes, all of the homework. Like I was the only one that actually, super flied and finished it all.
Well, it's so funny because when I did mine over the decades, my lectures and my classes, and they always had hands on, basically it just died out. Like people don't want to care about
Well,
themselves.
that's what's happening to my teacher. I mean, she's been teaching for 27 years. I mean, 47 years. She's been involved in it for, a lot, like over 50. And nobody, people say, oh, yeah, we'll sign up for your class. And then when the class comes, there's like half of the people show up, and she has all these like expenditures that she has to pay for. And then she gets half the class. And then even, some of them that pay the, down payment on it, they'll just not show up for the classes. And they're usually 3 to 6 long, over a period of time. And so what's happened is that I took she does a level 1 aromatherapy certification, so that you can take that later on and learn to make medicines and stuff, go to a higher school or whatever. And so I took the first one, and then this month is canceled, and next month for that certification, because not enough of the people from the first group signed up to take the second and the third course. So I'm taking a biodynamic online course, and then so I've kind of transferred my time and energy into something different. But yeah, so my native friends this year up there, the one, she actually went to this teacher's school like 3 or 4 years ago, and then one summer was the assistant for the summer program. And one of the things that she does is, she does indigenous ceremonial and smudge medicines and stuff like that. And so she made me up this killer smoking blend that it comes from, they have a permaculture 2 acres. So they grow all these plants on their property. And so it's got mugwort. Mugwort is another herb that this summer I fell deeply in love with. Mullein, I fell more deeply in love with mullein. So it has mugwort, mullein, lavender, rose petals from wild roses, and blue lotus. And then it's all ground together. And then you just roll it into a paper. And it has been, with this respiratory thing that I got.
What do you mean you're smoking this blend?
Yeah.
Well, because my daughter uses the smoking mugwort, and I'm like going, I don't know that I'd want to smoke mugwort. I can see mullein and coltsfoot, but mugwort?
Yeah, well, the native people here in California have a ceremonial, they smudge with mugwort. They use it in lodge. Yeah, it's super huge.
Because if you get into the wild crafting, which some would call witchcraft, it is actually where it will help aid in calming dreams, but that it's just, I never would have thought of that. See, you learn something new every day. No matter that I've been in herbs over 40 years, I've learned different. Now, mandrake, that's a whole different story. Yeah. The best thing I love about gardens is nature will put in there what it wants you to have.
Exactly. And the medicines, if you're open, the plant medicines will travel to you. They'll get to you. Seeds will get to you. Plants will get to you. The dried plant will get to you. That's the thing. That's one thing that I've really learned about manifesting, and I hate that word.
I know, is the man.
Well, the whole manifesting sounds like I'm conjuring, like I have to force anything to happen. I like more of like, the one thing about the herbs is once I really opened up to the whole thing and really opened up to these plants this year to teach me more and more and more. Now it's like I have so much herbal medicine everywhere. Like I have to like give it away. And then I have people sending me stuff. And then if I go someplace where people have herbal stuff, they have shelves and shelves of it. And I come home with like paper bags full.
Yay.
Yeah. And so, I mean,
that's good.
It's the main teacher of, unlimited resources and abundance. Like if people want to learn, like real manifesting,
it's getting out of your own way.
Yeah.
Because when you think you have a goal and you try to achieve that goal, that doesn't mean it's going to end up in the process of the way you think it has to manifest it.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to be infested. I don't want to.
I know that exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Well, words have power. And that's what the New Age has done. It's created different powers with words that don't or didn't at one time have a condentation, but now it does.
Well, that's what I like about the Tartarian people. You know,
That was a good show, Bridgette.
they come up with all this new language, that's it's pretty cool that I really, really like.
It's really not new language if they're getting it pre-Sumerian and Greek and all that, is it? I mean,
Well,
to us it might be new, but it's not really new.
yeah, I mean, they're just the whole thing. I can't
Like
wait.
the
I have
slang, like the F word. I bet you the Greeks didn't have a word for the F word.
Yeah, but the Italians have a hand gesture for it. There's sign language. Italians, I've seen them do it.
Oh, yeah, right. And then don't let them pinch your cheek afterwards, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so you two talk a minute. I'm going to go out for the 28 after the break. I'm going to take my 30 minutes. So you two have a conversation. I'll be right back.
All right. All right, Lenny. So what's up on this show?
I haven't figured that out yet, but I just moved inside because it was getting sort of breezy outside. They said it was going to get nice, but the weather is still cloudy. So, I don't know. I mean,
You guys get kind of Oregon-y weather there, or coastal-y weather kind of thing? Inland coastal?
no, it's more inland weather. It is, this is mountain area and it's fall. So the leaves are changing, the colors are doing well, but I would say this is more middle America than it is East Coast. I'm on the very western edge of North Carolina.
Oh. Aha.
Yeah, and the plan will be to head south through Georgia to Florida. And so supposed to meet up tonight. So
Awesome.
everything,
Yeah. Oh,
everything is on cue.
awesome.
And yeah, so I'm looking forward to getting back on the road. Mona has helped me repackage my stuff differently, but it's still basically more stuff than I should have taken with me. But life works like that. You never know what you're going to get into from when you start doing something. So now it's a just a trip that I'm gonna not worry about. It has been preordained that I have to do it, and so I'll do it, and it'll take however long it takes. And when I get there, there's several different plans depending on what actually happens when I arrive.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
We'll definitely keep in touch. I do not know if I will be in a place where I can pick up Saturday's show, but that's okay. Once I touch base, get grounded, and figure out what I'm doing, then I'm looking forward to getting my own show and starting to get back involved with broadcast journalism.
Are you considering doing your own show on Revolution Radio?
Yes, that's the idea.
Awesome. Well, Mona and I will vouch for you. I'm just
I
kidding.
figured you might. I know
Well,
enough people at the station from having been involved with the station for several years, even before I went and did the steampunk stuff. So it's not like I'm a new entity to most of the listeners. But in a way, I think we all are new entities now because we've had to retrofit ourselves from the belief system of what we were taught into the stuff we figured out. And even though we know what's going on in our universe, there's so many people who don't know what's going on in their own universes that want to intrude on our universe with their stuff that doesn't work.
hey, so I want to talk to you about you and Mona, well, mostly you, about, hold on. I still have the tail end of this cold, but let me tell you, this herb blend that I'm smoking that has the mullein and everything in it, thank God my native friends gave it to me. and I got papers because it saved my respiratory butt with keeping my lungs and sinuses disinfected, and also, like dried up, and keeping the inflammatory down so my respiratory didn't turn into like something deadly, because it could have. This was a freaky chemtrail viral thingy that came on like a freight train that, like immediately took me down. So I hammered it with all kinds of stuff, but the smoking blend has been life-saving. Um, okay, so I started noticing something that was pretty freaky. I think I messaged you about it on Skype. It's been like about a week.
Okay.
And it was on a morning that I went to the food bank. And this particular food bank, you can, and I started to notice weird stuff that morning. I was running late. I usually am at the food bank at 9:30 so that I can go into the parking lot. They open the parking lot at 9:30. And then they open the doors at 11 and you get in line. I just like to get there early because there's a lot less chaos going on. And so then you go in and you get your food and you come out to your car and you drive away. But so what happened was that morning I was late and I didn't reach. I just noticed that people were like out of it, like zombies, like not even awake, driving cars. They were like catatonic, like sitting on curbs. I noticed that like the pigeons even were like disoriented and like in the middle of the street, and it was like getting impossible to get them to move to like drive around them, or and it was just kind of this weird thing. I mean, it wasn't, whatever it wasn't affecting me. And so it was kind of a creepy thing. Like I felt like, maybe I'm in the Matrix and I'm the only one that's like awake, kind of a thing moment. So,
1987, the movie They Live.
yeah. So anyway, I drive all the way over to the food bank, which takes me even longer because there's all these zombies driving cars and stuff, literally like in the road, not noticing if the light's turning red or green, like don't know what to do. Like their whole mind has like been shut off, right? And so I'm like getting around that and having to take turns and different streets and, trying to get around these nutball traffic and everything else that like it's at a standstill. So I get over to the food bank, and what people will do is they'll sit outside of the curb of the parking lot and wait until 9:30 to go in. Well, there is one of the most awake people that I've ever met at the food banks. It was him, and he was sitting in his car, and I pulled into the parking lot because it was 9:50. There was no one there. There was no one there. I'm never first or second in line. Never, 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 never. And there was no one there. And so he was parked on the outside of the parking lot. I said, so is the food bank closed today? Like, what's going on? There's like no one here. He goes, no. He goes, no, it's open. And I said, oh, okay. And he said, you can only park in the parking lot, after 9:30. I said, I know. What time is it? He goes, 9:50. And I go, oh, okay. I said, well, I can park in the parking lot. And he didn't even really hear what I said. And then he said, well, he goes, I'll park in the parking lot, as soon as it hits 9:30. And I said, well, what time did you tell me it was? He goes, 9:50. I go, 9:50 is, past 9:30. And he was like, oh my God. And so he drove up into the parking lot. We were like the first two people in line. Usually I'm like a minimum of like 10 or 11. Sometimes more. And he was out of it. He even said to me, we were standing in line, and he said, if you hadn't have told me that, he goes, I might have been sitting out in my car on the side of the parking lot, forever. And it was just kind of like this trip. And then it took people a long time. Not very many people showed up to the food bank. And then everybody was out of it. I mean, completely out of it. Like people, they couldn't get out of the way. They couldn't get forward. Their minds were not grasping, putting the food in their bags, going along. I mean, like the whole process, and then trying to get up the stairs to get out of there with my stuff. It was just like, it was just like an obstacle course, and all these people like broken down on the stairwell trying to get their groceries up. I had to like pick up their groceries and run them up to the surface, and then, get them up the stairs. So get out to my car, get in the car, head back. It's even worse. Then I come around the park back to, there's a lot of birds at this park, and I have to pass through there to drop off the food for somebody I know. And I noticed all those pigeons that had been standing on the road when I came through the first time, people actually had ran over. And there was like 15 like dead, freshly smashed pigeons like right on the road. Because the pigeons were out of it. Whatever is affecting the people is affecting the pigeons, and then the people just drove over the pigeons because they're like zombies in cars. It was like such a bizarre morning. So right about the time where I pull the van over, I park to take the groceries out because I get groceries and stuff for other people too, people that can't, get to the food bank. And so I pull over to kind of the first stop to unload, and I start to hear this high kind of like this buzzing, but I noticed that nobody else can really hear it, right? And I even asked somebody if they could hear it, and they couldn't hear it. Anyway, it went on. I watched the time. The first one went on for 30 minutes because I was at my friend's house helping them with their groceries and stuff, and then it went off. And then about 45 minutes later, it came back on. It was on for 22 minutes. And then it went off again, and then it came back on like an hour later. And you know what? I realized like every time that it would come on, like people would just, cease to move or cease to function. And it was bizarre. It was such a bizarre thing to actually watch. And I'm like, they're at the advanced point where they can actually turn people on and off. And it would be like time stood still, or you lost time. You know what I mean? Because you'd be like, oh wow, last time I noticed it was 12:15, and oh, all of a sudden it's 2:35. Oh, I wonder what I've been doing for the last few hours. I wonder what's been going on. But it was kind of like, it was really interesting, and I'm not really sure why it didn't affect me. And it's kind of interesting that I feel like that I could hear it and other people couldn't. But I think a lot of people have their own mind noise, and I think they all have their own background noise in their environment, and that sometimes they don't hear things that are there.
I do know that if I'm not focused on listening and somebody starts talking to me, I have no awareness that they're talking to me until they actually gain my attention. And so if I'm not paying attention and somebody else is talking, they can go on for quite a while without me even noticing that they're talking because I didn't tune in. But it definitely sounds like the population was sprayed with lithium. Maybe they were doing some sort of experiment, or maybe because you keep yourself in good health and balanced nutritionally, the lithium didn't have an effect on you like it had on other people who are dietarily impoverished of certain elements that lithium can easily get to those sites where they belong. Hello?
Hey, this is what I put in. Frequencies that shut brain, or frequencies that the brain shuts down. I put that in as a search. And the first thing that
Mhm.
comes up is mind control by cell phone. It says, um, that it kind of says, remain dampened for nearly 1 hour after the phone was shut off, had an effect on mental behavior when transmitting at the proper frequency. Anyway, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I just wanted to see what they had. So, there was this story. Is Mona back?
I guess not.
Oh, let me check to see if we're still on.
I believe we are on.
You're
Okay.
on.
Okay.
There's no problem there.
All right. So there was that, there was this girl who really helped me to kind of really understand gain stalking, and she had like a YouTube video for a while. She's one of those people that got eradicated, social media blacklisted early on. But she was talking about she didn't know, I guess, that she was being followed or listened to, the stuff that she was talking about. And one day, she was at the Starbucks in town, small town, and she pulled in, went inside. She was waiting in line to order, and some crazy, she thought at the time it was a crazy person, but it was actually, an actor. Um, and the crazy person came in and pushed her out of line and started saying, "Hey, you bitch, you tried to crash my car at the stoplight, and who do you think you are? And I'm going to call the police on you," making a scene. And the girl was like, "I don't know what the hell you're talking about, lady. I don't even know who you are. Don't, and the lady's trying to get her to come outside to look at the car. "Well, if you don't come outside, I'm going to call the police on you." And she's like, "Look, let me just get my coffee. I'll come outside. I'll take a look at it. Why are you yelling at me? I don't even know who you are." And she's saying it loud so all the other people in Starbucks could, see what was going on. And then the next thing she knows is the girl runs outside, comes back in, and says, "That's it. I'm calling the police on you." And she said within like 2 minutes, two law enforcement sheriffs come walking through the door. No way that they could have, gotten there in that time frame, but she speculated they were already waiting outside. They arrest her while this girl's screaming, saying, she's making a citizen's arrest and she damaged her property and all this other stuff. And they handcuff her and they take her outside and they put her in the um, they put her into the car and they take her to the sheriff's station, and then they take her to a psychiatric hospital. And she's literally, taken into the psychiatric hospital into the back side. And she was in a cell that nobody frequented much but the doctors and, whatever else, for 3 months, she thinks. And then what happened is that her family was looking for her, didn't know where she was at. And the family started going out and actually doing their own detective work and asking questions about if people had seen her. And they got the cell phone records, and her phone was, at that Starbucks, kind of like when she went missing. So the family went in, started asking questions, and they said, yeah, it was a crazy thing. She kept saying, that she didn't know that girl was accusing her of wrecking into the car. And all of a sudden, these sheriffs came like super fast, like they were waiting in the parking lot, handcuffed her, and that's like the last we've seen. So then the sheriff kind of had to, like, divulge through FOIAs and stuff like that, legal kind of attention, that she was kind of in this mental hospital. So the family finds her, they get her out, and um, she, at this point starts to do a YouTube channel about gang stalking, and so every time something would happen to her, she'd do a video on what they were doing to her and how they were doing it. And one of the things she said was that they had the powers that be, or probably, NASA related, because they're the human weapons experts. They People like her, these gang stalkers, some of them have actual programs on their cell phones and computers and tablets that monitor the person they're attacking's brainwave pattern and can get a signature of that brainwave pattern that they can use from long distances to send a signal at you to make you do all kinds of different things. But she talked a lot about that kind of stuff. It was pretty a crazy situation. But yeah, so you can just download them. So some of these gang stalkers are actually creating conflict as a way to get the person out of public, and also downloading your brain frequency while the conflict is going on, so that now that the people that have the computer systems, your exact frequency under stress. So what they do is they send that out, and because it's a unique signature, it goes right to you. But the other thing too, what is it going to cause you? It's going to cause you all this, emotional stress chemicals, just like it did the first time when they collected it, because they're sending that signal back at you, the one that where you're in terror. Anyway, it's just kind of a trip. I think,
Yeah,
what we're dealing with, and people don't even want to like talk about it. It's just,
it's a question of whether people are actually in the world that we live in or not, because they certainly, for the most part, don't seem to be relating to the same things that I tend to relate to. And as I watch and learn from different people, I find that everybody is pretty confident of their own body of knowledge, unquestioningly, and get irritated when you question what they know or come at it from a different perspective. There's no real ability to know because people have taken disrelated facts and not pursued why they can't not be true. They've just believed what they've been told. The prominence of the television in the households that I've been to, each one, no matter what the status of the people involved, the living room has a large screen television. And I didn't realize it had come to that point. Some of these televisions are as big as movie theaters used to be. So, pretty bizarre.
yeah. Well, and I think it they are creating a reality for you. I mean, like if you sit down and you watch TV at all, I mean, it kind of like emotionally binds. You have your emotions, based on your hypnotic experience with TV, because that's what it does. That they went from the mind, or what was it called, Lenny? The When it was analog, they called it they didn't call it mind control. They called it something else, where they would flash products and stuff on, but at the rate that they
So
flashed them, you couldn't see it.
it was subliminal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, in Lenny and Mai's day, we had subliminal messaging through analog, which was visual. And then it would make you want to go out and buy that product, even though you didn't see the product, because it flashed on too fast, but your subconscious mind picked it up. And so they could do that to control you or populations a little bit, at least with spending. And that technology, wasn't that created by the son of like Carl Jung or something like that? I think the son of Carl Jung was the one
Bernays.
that developed the
I've
subliminal
seen
messaging and how to. Huh?
Bernays, and I think he was not Bernays, Edward Bernays. And he wasn't related to Jung, he was related to Freud.
Oh, there you go. All right.
He
I
was
knew it
like,
was yeah.
and he took some of Freud's ideas and applied them to the concept of advertising. And so it became a thing to use all these tricks in advertising to get market share. I don't know that they still use them or not, but you can bet they do.
Well, no, now it's okay, so when they went to digital, what they could do is they create a pulse that you can't hear, and it's like a light pulse, and it's a sound pulse that you can't hear. And so what happens is that they actually say that while you're watching TV, you are in a full scale hypnotic state, like a dreaming world. And so anything that you're watching during that download of hypnotization into your conscious and your subconscious mind stays in there. So anything that you watch or see or any of that stuff is enhanced because of this digital hypnosis methods that they're using. So they've actually went from the analog and the subliminal messages to one step further, where everything that gets recorded into your subconscious and heavily is through their methods.
Unless you
There's no
have the
choices.
block, which is cannabis.
Or you
Oh,
have,
did you
you
guys
can
hear
spend
my
a lot of time
crash?
watching TV. What?
I crashed in here. You didn't even know I was missing.
Well, I kept asking Lenny, like, where is Mona back at like 15 after?
I crashed in here. It was like I out of bodied, and my whole kitchen here was down on the floor. I'm on the floor. My knee hurts really bad, and I cut myself. And it's like, oh my gosh! So I go outside to try to have my cigarette, and I just couldn't. It was like something literally was just draining everything out of me. Good thing Breezy came up. He says, "You look too pale, Mona." So it was like, oh my gosh. Oh, so yeah, something happened, man. I gotta check my chart.
Check your
So,
chart.
so that
Well,
yeah,
Uranus
that does
slapped me
make
upside
sense.
the head. Pardon?
I was gonna go look for you about 5 minutes ago, but I didn't know how to tell Bridget I wasn't gonna be here, so I
Why are
stayed.
you plugged in?
Yes, I am plugged in.
Oh, it all worked out. I'm back at my.
Well, the good news is that we just carried on as
I
business as
know, right?
usual.
That's
So
why I didn't have a problem with y'all. I'm like, they'll handle it.
yeah, otherwise you'd have to be yelling at your computer, man down,
I
man
know,
down.
right? Woman down.
Yeah, woman down.
Oh, and it's a good thing I did all that horsetail for all those years because I could have busted something.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the fluoride has detrimentally taken all the true calcium out of the bones.
Well,
And
also the chlorine that's in the water
right,
too. You know, all that stuff, fluoride, it porous mix, and that stuff can make your brain porous like Swiss cheese too. That's what, causes dementia. And also there's a neurological brain function. And that Swiss cheese brain, it also is what is found that is similar in people that have things like mad cow disease. There was like this other thing too that they're finding that
well,
is
around here we've had legionnaires break out.
oh yeah, that stuff's pretty gnarly. That was didn't it come from, I mean, I think the original strain of legionnaires, wasn't it a didn't it come from
Pennsylvania.
but no, the original one I think came from, didn't it come from like Vietnam or something like that?
Well, what it is, it's a fungus that they found that every time they would spray the vegetables in the grocery stores, that fungus or mold, probably both nowadays, would get pushed into people's lungs and it caused the Legionnaire's disease now. To so it's everywhere, and so we're not getting enough sunlight. Even though that plant got bleached, we're not getting enough sunlight to take care of and to keep it at bay the different molds and viruses.
Well, because it's missing certain waves of the light.
Yeah, the red.
Yeah, so yeah, that stuff's not getting in, and it's not and that's a silent nutrient, it's another, like I give these lectures and I talk about silent nutrients, and there's so many silent nutrients that, I mean,
Right.
that we need that nobody talks about. And it really kind of aggravates me because everybody knows I hate doctors and medicine, but the other thing that really ticks me off is that now you have all these doctors who were druggies, right? Drug dealers, writing all these scripts, getting people hooked on heroin type products. Pretty much every painkiller is a heroin type project. Plus they give these types of opiates to people who have fibromyalgia and MS, lupus. People that'll have chronic pain because they have the advanced inflammatory disease. Um, and now all these doctors are like turning and they're becoming like nutritional experts when they never even studied nutrition in school ever. Was never even, they get like a 4-page ditto sheet, and the people will say, oh, don't worry about nutrition or food or anything because it doesn't matter, that won't help them. And so
Yeah,
now
it's
they're,
been a scam for all these years.
yeah, so now they're becoming like a supposed nutritional expert, and then they're developing, well, it's somebody else's product that they're putting their name on. It's not their development of their product.
It's
And then,
Mother Nature. They shouldn't be able to put a claim on it
well, that, yeah,
whatsoever.
exactly. And then, but the thing is that makes me mad is that they don't understand microbial mass nutrient. They don't understand sunlight nutrient. They don't understand positive carbon nutrient. And all these nutrients come from healthy land and the environment
Well,
and the
it's the
sun.
process of the working of it too, because
Yeah,
that's the
exactly.
stimulation of the giving thanks. Because when that gave thanks back to the universe provided more energy so it can keep its cycle going. We have forgotten to give thanks.
Yeah. Well, I mean that too. I mean, but the thing is like we have these dumb people like doctors
Whoops.
that are
I guess
running.
we're supposedly on music that I'm not hearing.
Oh, we're on the commercial.
Except that there aren't commercials now because the station isn't
No, it's
functioning.
playing. No, it's playing.
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's till probably mine was 2 minutes after. So, all right, I'll mute
All
out.
right, we'll mute out.
Are we there yet?
No. Here we go. Hold on. Ball time.
Go ahead.
Welcome back. We're here at freedomslips.com, revolution.radio. Oh, please remember we are listener supported, so do the donate click and help us out and hook us up because we are worth it. That's right, we are worth it. So in any other way, as long as you go to the homepage, check it out. So, okay, so we're back. Did I lose you guys?
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Okay, now I hear the it's playing over. Can you hear it? Or is it me?
I can't hear anything.
It's me. No, I had the player on. So no wonder, because I always listen to the bowls after I play them, even though I turned the player off when I play the bowls, because you can hear my mic is so sensitive. You can hear it playing. But otherwise, it's all just happening. It's all good. If you want perfection, forget it. It would take too long to create it that way. And then you never really have it. Well, to a degree. Like what Ahmad's doing is he's editing his book because he's trying to get his book online. And so, that's the way everything has. You got to check it out, make sure. Don't you check equivalence before you do a chemistry problem and before you do the problem?
You have to work the experiment out completely in theory before you actually go into the laboratory and do it. And you have to have a good idea of what you're trying to get. And once you get it, how you can demonstrate that it is what you got. But chemistry was good practice for the rest of life. And there's really a lot of good chemistry lessons that I apply to life, and that keeps me out of trouble because I understand the principles of the chemistry or of the alchemy, which predated the chemistry. Nowadays, I'm not so sure that alchemy ever was disproved. It was just left behind. But it does seem to be a pretty good way of dealing with the energies that we deal with.
Oh. And boy, don't they fluctuate. I mean, just for what I just went through, now I'm going to feel body aches in all different kinds of places that I didn't recognize I had.
Oh, that's kind of good. So did you physically fall?
Yeah.
Okay.
I crashed to the ground or the floor. Yeah, and you know how tight it is around here. Just imagine.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. But I'm fine now. Things are well. And I'm very thankful that I did do the horsetail and I kept in spring water, not city water. And because I noticed way back when, because I didn't want my children growing up with that detriment. And we've forgotten that our babies are our future. And the way things are happening to people at earlier ages and what they've done to our systems is we do need a safe place. But it's like we've had the communication for how many days now about the community thing. People have not and don't know community.
Yeah, it's one of those things that everybody has their own interpretation, but until you're getting there and doing that, different people mean different things and have different expectations. And going into anywhere with expectations is bound to lead to disappointment because you never get what you've been led to expect.
Well, yeah, well, why would you if you're living in this universal world? And even though we might ask for it to be a certain way, that's why I don't make goals. I make agendas, but I don't really put goals out there. And because every goal that I had, as in a three-dimensional world, didn't work out. Just like what poor Bridget went through. She went and created this whole establishment of holistic health, and they came after her.
Yep. All because she was
Did we
right.
lose her?
I think we did.
I didn't see that. I shall check. No, she's recording the call. She must have had to go do something.
No, I'm here.
Where did Bridget go? Oh, she's out chasing butterflies and hopping over toadstools.
No, I actually had to go get some tea.
Cool.
Yeah, some throat tea, so we're all good.
Have you ever heard, because I read a lot of Jethro Kloss, and he had a great thesis about apple cider vinegar, that if fed to cows, there be less abortions, and that they were actually more fertile because the apple cider vinegar did something to their system. And so it's been around for a long time to use apple cider vinegar. But if it's an organic germ that you think you're fighting, if you inhale the fumes, it'll kill any of the original basis of what causes dis-ease and bronchial issues. Kept my kids in school. Every time they get a stuffy nose or an itchy throat or whatever, I'd say, okay, I'm getting out the vinegar. And all it was a quarter cup in a quart of steaming, not boiling, steaming water. And you inhale the vapors. You could put your essential oils in there too, like a eucalyptus or, well, you could put even the dry herb in it, like a potpourri. That's probably the original thing for potpourri.
Yeah. Well, you know, one of the things I learned this summer was, well, I learned all kinds of different applications for vinegar. Even I learned how to make it.
Neat.
And we did black walnut in vinegar for fungus removal.
Right.
We did all kinds of different, all of our bug sprays and burn sprays were based in vinegar. And you can chop up the herbs and stick it, you know, directly in the vinegar, let it cure in a cupboard for 4 weeks, then take the plant mass out, put it back in the cupboard, let it go for 2 more weeks. And that's also how you make vinegar. You chop up the apples. You
and
want
sauerkraut.
Sugar with the apple cider,
right.
And then you let it sit for 4 weeks, and then you clear off the base just to the liquid, and then you let it sit and cure for 2 more weeks, and then it's good indefinitely. But like I learned all kinds of stuff you can make because you know you can give kids tinctures, but a lot of the tinctures are alcohol based, and so you can use vinegar to actually create tinctures for infusing the plant into the vinegar for tincture medicine for kids and animals.
Well, the whole thing is about the idea of the alcohols. If you're using a hot beverage, the alcohol will burn off.
Yeah, you can't put tincture in that, but you can definitely put, and yeah, so I mean, and also I saw this, it's called I forget what they call it in herbal medicine, but you basically take, you know, like rosemary, you want everything to be live, obviously, and you take rosemary and different kinds of things, and you can different plants, and you can steam it on your stove. You basically, you know, cook it up, and then you sit down with a towel over your head, and then all those essential oils come from the plants into your.
But that's what I did also. That's what I was saying
vapor.
about the apple cider vinegar.
Yeah,
but the situation is, okay, I hate to interrupt you, but I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I had to find out that by having a chemically induced dis-ease kind of thing, that you can't use heat. You have to use cold to bring what it is out. So you have to identify really what you believe that is causing it. Is it organic or is it synthetic? And that's sad. It's very sad that we're now at that structure. Not everything can be cured the way that we thought it
But
once.
the thing is like the Ayurvedic medicines are designed that way. Like they're like they treat either in the hot way or they treat in the cold way.
Right,
And
but
they
I'm
have
talking literal temperature. I'm not talking about the Chinese meridians that we have
no,
cold.
this is in Ayurvedic medicine. You have, if you're running Vata, I forget what it is. If you're running Pitta, then you do everything with hot stuff. If you're running Vata, you do everything with cold stuff, which means you eat cold food, you take cold medicines, you keep yourself cooler. And then if Vata, then you have that disturbance, then you do the Pitta is all hot. You eat hot foods, drink hot tea, drink hot water, take hot medicines, things like that.
But the body is going to show the remnants of the cause in two different manners, is what I'm trying to say to you. Okay? It's not soil root based life that's causing the dis-ease in the physical body.
No, I already got that. But in Ayurvedic medicine, they actually, have medicine that predates the chemical type nano viruses, and they have methods of figuring out where you're at with the virus that you have, and then they've already got medicine worked out that actually would include the nanoparticle problems. I mean, not cure them, but be able to help them.
Flush.
Yeah.
Because flushing is part of the whole thing.
Well, that's why you have inflammation, is because none of your systems are flushing. So you get, and it all leads to advanced inflammatory blood disorder. And that's where a lot of the really horrible things like fibromyalgia and all that other stuff start to accumulate, physical pain. But yeah.
I think these are all man-made. That's what gets me the most, is that they've known it. They've known that you are going to go and get cancer from the electronics that's going on because it was never around during the pyramid times, that they've manifested new diseases. And I really think that a lot of it's going to be our spirit and mind over all this matter, because all this matter is a vibrational either disharmony or harmony. And it's going to be up to each one of us to make those choices. And it's not always easy. I mean, trust me, I know life happens. I'm going to have to write that down on my calendar. Crash, Mona, crash. I'm going to go out for my smoke. This time I'll be able to walk it without falling.
All
so,
right.
you two, I'll be right back.
All right, Lenny, are you there?
I am still here.
Poor Lenny, the only time he gets a worded edgewise is the break.
That's okay. Vinegar is acetic acid, and it's an organic acid, and it's one of the very few that is really good. Citric acid works also. Vitamin C is very good. All sorts of different chemistry things that you actually get out of nature. But I don't know. We seem to be an extractive society, and it's more to our distraction. There got to be better ways to do things. So, anyway, getting back to standing in line and watching the people dysfunction based on audio frequency and chemical spraying, it definitely seems to me that maybe something was going on in the city arena that day, because you guys are the densest population of homeless folks, and they feel like homeless folks are worthy to experiment on. So maybe they were doing some extra harping. Maybe they changed the composition of the chemtrails that day, and with the frequency, were able to disable people. But your health, because you watch it, somehow you have an immunity to that? I don't know. Mona's been showing me all the 5G towers around here, and it is fairly dense in 5G towers. I am very surprised. But they are not turned on yet, apparently. So I wonder if there's a way that we could monitor what's going on through the hospitals to see if the 5G rollout physically is causing more disturbances amongst the people. Did I lose you?
Sorry. A
Nope.
basic, medical lab. So this is kind of a phenomenon that's happening, right? Because I get a lot of clients that have gone to doctors, and they, call me, and I talk to them about what they've been diagnosed with. And then, we've tried to find out, like Mona was saying, is it something viral, or is it a real biological thing, or is it a chemically induced thing? And then I teach people kind of you know, the best ways I can to support the healing of that in, like an alternative way. And so one of the big things that I've been hearing about a lot lately is how many people are being diagnosed with the more intense Lyme disease. And a lot of people don't know about Lyme disease cures. There are Lyme disease cures, but and one is from a plant that I actually worked with this year, and I actually have a bunch of tincture. But I think it also, that herb has to be supported with other nutrients for the whole protocol to work, fast and effectively. But you think about, um, most of these people don't have Lyme disease, because you'll say to them, so did you know that you got bit by the tick? Was the tick embedded? Did you have like a red bump with a circle around it that wouldn't, quite heal? Did it get fussy and pussy? And just asking them different questions. And usually it's always no, 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 no. And so then you start to realize, like, the smart meters, what they do to your cells, you know. So you go to the regular medical doctor. This is just for people who don't know out there. When you go to the radical medical doctor, they take your blood sample. Most of the time they'll take like a rainbow, several tubes. All those tubes have different gases in them. None of them are clean. If they actually draw them in the wrong order, it can make you look like you have a disease that you don't have, because there's a chemical in your blood that would be present in a disease. So you can be misdiagnosed, like, across the board. But regular laboratories, what they do when they diagnose you, because your doctor doesn't look at your labs, and he doesn't diagnose you. He didn't draw your blood. And so he gets the results. And I'm really believing that these smart meters, in particular, oxidize the cell, and the cell changes a form, and that form looks just like Lyme disease. So I believe that a lot of these people are being diagnosed with Lyme disease that don't have Lyme disease, that is actually, Wi-Fi related.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
It's causing the cell to look like it's Lyme disease. And so I tell people, it's like they're always shocked, that they can get rid of their, supposed Lyme disease by not being on Wi-Fi, trying to stay as far away from Wi-Fi as possible, moving away from, living near a smart meter at all, making sure that, they try to do everything they can in their environment to block it as much as possible. And what happens is they recover without actually curing the Lyme disease, because it was a smart device.
Right, a weapon.
Yeah, that is going to damage
everything in
your
life
cell.
is a weapon except our attitude, but they've trained so many to have it as a weapon. And that's the whole thing. I mean, I bless everything. It doesn't matter how good or bad anybody else might see it, because for some reason it had to be there. We got to quit getting pissed off at life, because until you recognize we're manifesting it, and you're under a lot of stress, Bridgette, I would like to think that you could find your land. I would like my land too. Lenny wants some land too. Hey.
Yeah. Actually, this summer was kind of a pivotal point of giving me a lot of new tools. And then also I really kind of, I think, defined the work that I'm going to do in the future, which is restoring land. I just have to find people who are interested in having that done now, because I really need a
It's
lab.
past
I
time.
need
Okay.
you need a laboratory in order to work in, to actually create a lot of these natural healing medicines, for the soil and the water, and restructuring and resurrecting and regenerating and restoring, resetting, land. So it's good though, that I did this herbal medicine program, because it taught me a lot, but it also taught me, back to the plants, back to the soil, because that's how I wanted to get, reason why I wanted to do herbal medicine in the long run was so that I'd have medicine to give my patients, good, clean medicine that I made. I wildcrafted the plants, I wildcrafted the medicine, I was involved with all of it, and to give my clients the medicines that they need, right? And then there was been this long crazy road of, like, I don't know, 17 years of having to keep going back to the soil, and the biodynamics, and the this, that, and the other thing, and the plants, and the growing of the plants, and how they work together, and their relationships, and so I'm pretty solid now, what my future work entails, and the saving of Earth, basically, in as large of parcels that I can get, and as fast as I can go, to teach the people who have those areas. So the good thing about this summer was it was kind of a turning point, of a direction. At least I know what my direction looks like, instead of kind of being, a ship docking at lots of different ports, but just can't really figure out, which port it wants to be permanently docked at.
Well, but that's where the universe is showing us where we need to go, because we're like little antibiotics.
Hell no, I'm an acupuncture needle. I
Oh,
believe
no,
in land
man.
and cosmos. No, I'm just kidding.
I'd rather be massaged. Do the acupressure. I don't mind needles because I have tattoos all over me. When I was a child, though, because they were putting poisons in my body, I would always black out on them. So my body was trying to tell me way back when, you don't want this crap. What are you doing?
Why did I tell you about this
Oh,
program I took? No, so I've been doing acupuncture for a really long time, but I have my own method now. I've developed this whole other,
okay,
um,
can I ask you a question?
yeah.
Because I'd love it. Bring your needles here, honey. Um, tuning forks. What do you think about tuning forks and using it with some kind of healing?
Well, I
That's
think,
something I've wanted to think about looking into.
yeah, well, I think tuning forks are like gongs or singing bowls.
Well,
They
that's
can,
why I have my bowls.
yeah. I wouldn't, the thing is like, I don't think I think that using acupuncture needles and other weird Americanized methods, because, we've always got to have faster and better. We can't just be traditional, right? We just can't, stay traditional. But, there are people that like to put electrodes on needles so they get the muscles and the meridian.
Oh,
And then they also have, so I don't I don't think I'd use tuning forks around the needles, because the needles, if you get the good needles and you go to somebody who's good, you're going to get all that and more.
right.
You don't need to, like, add weirdness to
You're going to
these,
get the
pieces
etheric
of,
part balanced with the material
yeah, it's
part.
a,
Uh-huh.
yeah, they're technology acupuncture needles, and that's the thing I wait for. And I do a method called that I've developed. It's called structural acupuncture, um, and it's getting super good at it, actually. And it's hard to explain. You've been doing it for a long time, and then I had an Asian type based shaman living in the dream world who was coming across and taking me over there and teaching me some different things with acupuncture.
Neat.
So it's kind of like that. But
Oh, I
I
love
don't
it.
think I do tuning forks on it either, because that's what they do. And the thing is that I wait for the needles to do their own bouncing. What'll happen is that if you're good at what you do and you're really getting, they can be like, acupuncture needles can sort of be like a divining device too. And
Right.
so once everything's in balance, either the body will push the needle out, which sometimes happens on its own, because it's like, okay, I'm done. And or the needle will bounce. It'll start to swivel and bounce. And so I wait for it to get to like a a certain type of reaction before I know that it's all balanced. But they do move on their own. So I'm not sure I'd want to, just for people out there, I don't think I'd go for funkier treatments other than acupuncture. Acupuncture and electronic shock, no thank you.
Oh, I seen it done on my husband. It was horrible.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get it. I'm just like, going, you're doing what? Yeah. There was a lot of things I helped manifest peace in his body, but putting electric is not one of them.
Well, and if you have metal of any kind in your body,
Right.
they were shooting. I had a friend of mine that was going to this chiropractic, or no, it was a physical therapist, and they were shooting this, using this machine to, I don't know, try to soften some of the,
okay then.
try to soften. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Never sorry on this show.
Yeah. So
Carry
they're
no
trying
sorrow.
to use like healing frequencies or something. I don't know what they were using into the body. And I said, well, I told my friend, I said, well, you can't do that. It was her husband. I said, he has a metal plate in his hand. And she goes, oh, dude, didn't even think about that. She goes, because when they do these treatments on him, like he's literally howling in more pain. And he comes home and he's like, super, super in pain. And I said, well, that type of therapy, the energy is meant to hit the body and go through the body. And when you have a metal plate, it hits the plate and comes back in, So it actually, can like seriously, seriously harm people. And even if you have metal fillings in your mouth, right? You're playing on a totally different field with certain types of things when you have metal in your body as well.
Right. Depending on where the metal is, too.
Yeah. You have to be careful because if
Can
some
you
of the
imagine with the amalgamatoms in it because they had nickel in them?
Oh, dude, I have old.
Nope. I had mine all taken out.
Yeah, well, I haven't had the money for that yet, but you know what? It's on the top of my list next.
Well, you
But
just manifest that. No, I'm teasing.
yeah, well, I've already found the dentist that'll
Oh,
do it.
good. There you go.
Yeah, down in Santa Fe, and then you go through the whole thing. I think you go down for several weeks, and they treat you nutritionally first. Like you get like a vitamin C IV every day, and then you get then different things, B vitamins and different kinds of things, and they just kind of prepare your body for all of it. And then you have the first section done, and then they only do a little bit at a time so that they don't make you sick.
Yeah,
And
I
then
had mine taken out 4 different times, but that was only because I figured I should do it that way. They
yeah,
wouldn't have done it that way otherwise. So
but
that's
I've
smart
been looking at
thinking.
this. Yeah, I've been looking at this other thing too. I mean, he charges like 50 grand. It's a 50 grand treatment, but the right way is not always the cheap way. And he's a biological dentist, which means that they do everything biological that's natural, to the body as much as they possibly can.
What, Lenny?
Got a dog here.
Oh, which one?
Z.
Oh, ouch, ouch. I was just bragging about thinking and looking at my hands and that and going, oh, look, you don't look all bruised up. That's what I get for thinking like that because now I'm all bruised up. Oh, that's funny. We do have to watch what we think we're manifesting. People don't recognize that the energies are so profound right now that you've got to be at least conscious and not yet the subconscious take over the conscious. I mean, honestly, because that was a good part of that conversation I heard you two were talking about how the subconscious really sucks in all that caca, and you don't realize it.
Okay, well, but this is the big thing. Above that conversation we had, children, they run they used to. Now, with the way things are, that they are pushing them out of that delta brainwave patterning early. But it used to be that children from, when being in the womb until they were age 7 were running more of a delta deep subconscious programming, because in order for survival, they have to run that program, because it's downloading all kinds of information about their environment, if it's safe, it's not safe, how to survive. And then after that, then they go into what's called the alpha, which is the human, both sides, of your brain working together, blah, 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 blah. And so, the thing is that kids are programmed for however long they're in the early childhood brainwave pattern. So anything that they're exposed to downloads into them. Like if I had a kid, never would I let them watch TV. Never would I let them pick up a Wi-Fi device. Never would I let them be in angry and violent environments. And I would try to keep them as clean as possible with everything that's going on around them, at least until they were 7. Because then at age 7, when they go into the alpha, then I can explain to them and teach them things and tools to help with what they're going to experience in the outside world.
Yes, that's why my babies are the babies that they are, because that's exactly what I did. But it's not easy, Bridgette.
No, it's not
Families
easy.
are in such turmoil, and it's just.
Well, I decided not to have kids because a lot of my friends needed me to help them with their kids, because they'd get divorced and then they'd be dating, and they would drag kids into
Yeah, well,
2
they're
or 3
not baby
marriages.
goats, Bridgette.
So yeah,
Children.
And so I decided not to have children. Plus, the list that I had, that I would have to, in order to be for them 100% and do my best entire job, I knew that I would need land. I knew that I need to grow food, and I knew that I was going to need to make their own food, and I was going to have to homeschool them. And at the age of 35, when I had this awareness, the last ditch effort, to maybe even have kids, I decided that I just am, if I had had some land, I may have gone for it. But the fact that I didn't even have land and I was all over the map, I was like, there's just no way I can do the really good job that a child needs. And so I have no business having kids. I
Children.
cannot, children. I can't, I'm going to damage them. They're going to live in like a lifestyle of military boot camp, like spiritual boot camp. And it's been hard on me. I can't even imagine what it would have been like. And this is the other thing too, is the state and the government probably would have taken my kids, because I would have been like, no
They
vaccines,
tried
no
taking
this.
mine.
And they would have, and that was another thing. I just, because, if somebody tried to inject my child with like poison from a needle, I literally probably would go postal. I'd
Right.
go AK-47,
Right.
because how could you just stand there and let that happen? I don't even let the vet. The vet tries to pull that kind of shit on me, and I'm like, no, my dog's like going to be 11, and she's had it all, and I'm pretty sure she's had enough
Right.
vaccines in her life. And I
Right.
just recently realized why I have all these clients that have dogs that have hip dysplasia and hip problems, and it's because, guess what? They now give the rabies to the dogs in the hip joint. I mean, they can't give it to them in the neck, because all these cancer tumors started showing up and the dogs started getting brain damage, and sometimes it killed them because it went to their brain. And so in order to hide that, now they have them giving them the vaccine in the back hips. And so now that's why, those vaccines are going in and degenerating those hip joints and killing all of the important, immune system and rebuilding stuff in those hips, and causing um, um,
Well, probably any kind of thing, even
degeneration.
kidney failure, the UTs, all
Yeah,
of it.
well, that's why I think she has a UT right now, is because it had been, I fought him off for 7 years on the rabies, but the vet finally just said, in this whole area, like, if you don't get your dog, rabies vaccinated, at least periodically, and it's not recorded, then they'll actually, have the pound police hunt you down and take your animal away, because
Oh,
you're. having animal cruelty. I just talked to an Asian lady who had a dog, Chow. I mean, not a Chow, but a Shar Pei. And she had the dog for 17 years and it went blind. And it had been blind for 6 months. I mean, that's a long time for a medium-sized, large-sized dog. 17
Right.
years. That's extraordinary. And so she took it to the vet to put it down because it was failing and it was blind and been blind for 6 months. And she hadn't been to the vet in like a year. And the vet, they put the dog down, but they took all this blood from the dog before they put it down, and they tested it in their vet office, and then put the dog down, and then accused her in court of that her dog had diabetes, and because she didn't get the dog treatment for diabetes, and it died as a consequence. She had to put it down. It was sick. They made her serve 3 months in jail.
Jesus Christ.
But the vet had seen it a year prior. The vet was just mad about the money. Didn't make the money off the diabetes treatment or whatever else, and turned her into the state. Is that like just? And I mean, you never hear of people barely getting their dog to 17, especially a medium to large size dog.
Exactly.
I mean, that lady, whatever she did to her dog, she was an angel to her dog.
Right.
That vet needs to be castrated.
Yeah.
Well, no, because his brain will still work, and he'll still put people through that kind of torture for no flipping apparent reason. That's disgusting. This is society?
Yeah.
Oh, Christ.
You know, and the main reason I go is for the heartworm, because we go places where there is heartworm. There were lots of dogs get heartworm because we're on different farms and stuff like that where there's lots of mosquitoes. And so I have to have Jen on heartworm during the summer, you know, for 6 months. Plus we were in Mosquitoville this summer, so it was, and she got eaten alive. So the heartworm worked really good. It's the only thing that I do because I can't find a replacement in nature for it. So, you know, I can kill a lot of the other worms, or like woodworm and, you know, different kinds of stuff and different kinds of seeds and things. But that heartworm one is just one that just is a difficult to go, because even just one heartworm will puncture holes in the heart. And you know, once they're found with heartworm, they have to legally take them from you. And then they'll either put them down or they give them a treatment, which is heavy arsenic poisoning to kill the heartworms. So if they survive the, you know, treatment.
Yeah, so, well, if we had a healthy environment and was living healthfully, we wouldn't have all this shit.
That's exactly right. That's why I'm like all about the soil and all about, you know, what's going on with the nature and the restoration and, you know, all this different stuff.
Well, I remember Lenny once talking on a show about how the metals and all that will actually gravitate towards each other. And it had something to do with soil. I guess that's like you'll find a copper mine or a silver mine. It's not just all sporadically everywhere. You know what I mean? So,
well, I think Roger Spur said that gold in particular, gold will become diamonds. That's his theory. He's got the Mudwassel University channel, and he's really done some studies and lab stuff, and he's proven that what he's talking about, a lot of it is correct. But he was saying, like, these giants that died in the mud flood, that if you can find the spot where, you know, they're bled out of the 1 foot, where their blood went, and it maybe even pulled in the feet, that's where you'll find like the huge gold finds. And he's even proven that. He had a company from Australia that was a gold mining company that was going broke, and they heard about him and some of his weird, you know, stuff he was talking about, and they called him, and so he helped them to try to figure out from their landscape where a giant may have died, and actually found 1,500 feet down. I think it's like one of the largest, and this was just like 2 years ago. This is like the largest amount of gold found like in ever.
That is so cool. Oh, I don't diss anything that guy says. I love the ones about the dragons that he has.
I know. And he shows you on the map. You're like, whoa. Oh my
Well,
God.
how could it not be the evidence? That was evidence. But he shows his evidence.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of that sometimes, you know?
No. Yeah. And the thing is with him, he's really conservative. You'd be surprised because he won't go for some of these airy fairy or, other things. He doesn't go for it at all. He's like, a matter of fact, but he's talking about this subject that's so far out there for most people that he doesn't realize that, he sounds a little airy fairy sometimes.
Well, you've heard of is it Demon's Tower? That looks like a tree stump. I know there were giants here on this planet.
Well, he said that it's a lower leg and ankle that's sticking out.
No, maybe there, but
Devil's Tower.
Oh, no. Really?
Yeah, he said he's
to me it
re-looked
looks
at
just like a tree stump.
Yeah, but he said, like, if you look at tissues and how tissues are around that kind of area of your body, and, he can show you all that stuff. He can prove it, that it's, that it's the strappings that you're seeing. Yeah, but there probably, there had to be trees as big as giants, right? I mean, there did have to be that.
Well, yeah. Exactly. And that's how the dinosaurs got. It wasn't an asteroid. It was the stratospheres were changing because the Earth has been growing. And people don't want to believe that either, but that's okay. Oh, that's right, it's flat. Yeah, that's ridiculous. I just can't believe that people would actually believe that we live on a slab of something.
Well, I think it's far weirder than a flat earth or a globe earth that we believe in. I think it's probably far stranger than a lot of that. I mean, even the guys who the Thunderbolt Project, I started watching when they first did their first video on YouTube, and there are a whole bunch of scientists that have come to collectively and what their findings are and what they're reestablishing as, planetary history and the universe. And they even talk about that in the beginning of Earth, that it would have had a like a greenhouse, maybe even ice shield around it. And that it would have been like a giant greenhouse. And then over time, almost collisions with other planets or debris coming from collisions of other planets in our immediate, planetary area, that it got destroyed. And then you look at like people that are doing the Bible or people doing mud flood and some of the flat Earth people. A lot of the flat Earth stuff is kind of dropping out. You can kind of see it. It's not really holding. But there is a lot of, some of them did bring up ancient, information in other languages and stuff, and in the Bible and other places where it talks about the filament, or not the filament or whatever. I forget the word that's actually used. That covers,
well, I consider them veils, and there's a whole lot of different ones in the same location too. It's right. Not just a flat thing. It's 360.
Right, but the thing is that there is kind of a lot of proof from other people that follow NASA and stuff like that, that we've actually never launched anything into real space, that there is like a actual physical barrier that prevents us from doing that.
Well, it's the Van Allen belt, isn't it?
No, it's, actually leaving the atmosphere of Earth. So they're saying that a lot of these
that would be
satellites are, huh? Well, that's why the moon landing and all that was fake, the first one, and that it was done in a, it was done by Kubrick. That's why they let him do all those crazy ass movies that he did. Otherwise, they would have never allowed him to do those movies, the ones that he did during the course of his career. But yeah, so I'm of the fact that and then there was this guy, check this out. This was like one of the most mind-blowing proofs to me that we don't know shit about Shiola. They were
even if it's not on a stick? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. There was a guy, okay, so this was during the period that Mars was showing the rover on Mars which how do they do that? How does it take a picture of itself? Does it take a picture of itself? But, and also things that it was finding. There was a guy during that same period who opened up one of those YouTube channels, which is also one of those YouTube channels that was taken down after they found him. After a lot of people started subscribing, then, it was the demise of his channel. But he showed proof. He was doing like Google Earth and stuff like that and some other stuff. And he found kind of, sort of by Las Vegas area, that there was a whole bunch of canopies that had NASA on them, all kinds of NASA gear. Oh, and guess what? They had the NASA Mars rover. And so he started
Wag a Dog. Have you ever seen that movie, Wag a Dog?
He started video recording and making these videos and showing everybody that the exact same thing NASA's showing as their rover being on Mars is not in Mars, it's out in the desert in Nevada. So after I saw all that, I believe that I'm pretty damn sure we cannot go to Mars. And I'm pretty damn sure we've never been to Mars. Now, there could be a gateway, and Richard talked to me about this, and Fringe, the series Fringe. They touched on it. But Richard said, we all know who Richard is. I'm not going to throw his whole name out there. But he told me that it's like Fringe, where you literally step at a doorway and you're on Mars, and then you can step back. So they have even traveling to Mars would be like totally ridiculous at this point, because you could just go back and forth, and that they have that technology. And that was like, I don't know, 7 years ago. Richard told me that he actually I'm going to say, I'm not sure if it was him or one of his alters or what, but had actually gone through that doorway onto Mars and was there.
Yeah, and but I mean, a few of us have done the astral travel. So is it really different, maybe dimensional realms or perspectives? I mean, no, I have not been able. Physical. No, I don't care what other people say. I got to go by what I know that I feel to be factual or not. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it isn't. I will not follow any straight line of anything, except NASA has no straight answers, and they got more than one places called NASA that, oh my gosh, they're using the technology that they figured out to try to pull over our eyes to use it against us. And
well, Lenny, just so you know, Lenny worked for NASA.
I think he went out to dinner. What?
Huh?
Way back when.
But what was your perception of NASA? Do you think that they ever went to Mars or anything like that? What's your perspective on it?
I was on an assignment to do water purification because the technology that we had in the early 1990s was not capable of getting all the way to Mars with the water that could be contained in a single ship. And so the ideas were to get more efficient at the water purification so that it could be recycled, so that there was no need for a water refueling stop or a second rocket carrying water. And so that was the explained problem at the time with going to Mars 30 years ago. I agree with you. I don't think we've ever been there from traveling in a rocket ship. However, a lot of what you're describing definitely seems like it was presented to us in the movies and television series called Stargate.
Oh, but they found gates. That's what part of the Iraq war was the Stargates and all that hidden truth information in the museums. Oh no, it's all over oil.
You know, the president, there was just an article last week from the president of Iraq that I got a hold of that talked about how he came out in the media and said, the airport basically the airport basically where the Anunnaki, majorly, came and went from, was there in Iraq, and they just built their newer airport on top of it, and that it literally can control they that things, it's harder to land things there, so there's all this weird, like even electrical magnetic stuff that I guess people have been studying for a long time, like completely around it. So anyway, that was just kind of interesting to me that he said that it's the ancient port. I guess it would be a port or a dock, where the spaceships would come in either physically, or things could be transferred, multidimensionally too.
Yeah, they're really interesting looking. I think that's another reason why the chemtrails are out there, because we're not supposed to be able to see it. I saw the whole system of what they're calling Planet X or all that, with the 7 partners or whatever, supposed to be in etheric right above us. It was one of the, and I wasn't stoned, I wasn't high, I wasn't sleeping. I just looked up and the whole sky opened up and showed me that. And I'm like going, well, that's kind of cool. I mean, what am I going to do, right? And that there are, they're just trying to inhibit us from seeing everything that's really miraculously, by some miracle, happening. I don't like we don't have enough sun. We don't, but I'm not going to make it where I get pissed off about it, because I'm going to change what I can change. And that's the only power each one of us needs, really, like your power of what you're trying to do, and Lenny's power of what he's getting done. And we will make a change. It's just like the shungite. When I ding the bowls, each bowl has shungite in it. And so it gives it 3 different tones, all the shungite. Hello, wake up, here you are, it's 3 o'clock. Every bit of energy we can just put out there to make it better is my goal anyway.
Well, thanks for having me on your show. It was a treat. Thanks for coming on my show, the last part.
That was a fluke. I just went outside. And there was Sir Lenny.